Cryptocurrency, DeFi, NFTs. If that sounds confusing, the BitLab Academy is here to help. We make it simple. Start investing in crypto. Learn trading fundamentals and how to make money with NFTs. Join our community today. Crypto for beginners, taught by the pros.
Welcome to Rice TVX. You have just snapped, crackled, and popped your way into the newest episode of the Rice Crypto Show. Today, I am joined by LitecoinLeader for a content creator spotlight. I invited him on to learn more about him, his YouTube channel, and Crypto Confidential. Before we get into it, visit ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX content. You will also find my various social media links and more. You can also find Rice TVX on Odyssey and Library, where I have a full catalog of my videos, post up extra content, and share other appearances. And you can also find Rice TVX on BitChute. Get your free half ounce of silver. Take full advantage of my partnership with Money Metals Exchange in 5 easy steps. 1. Visit moneymetals.com. 2. Be a first-time buyer. 3. Purchase a minimum of $100. 4. Use the promo code RICE. 5. Get a free half ounce of silver, and it's an additional way to support the channel. I will include links in the video description for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything shared on today's video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on today's episode of the Rice Crypto Show is Jeff Pnnacle, the LitecoinLeader. Jeff, thanks for coming on the show today. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great, Rice. I love being here. Thank you. Thanks for the invite. It's always good to be talking to you anytime.
And I'm definitely looking forward to our conversation, man. It's we've had a couple chances to hang out in person, and we're going to be seeing each other early April in Miami. Going to be a lot of different crypto events, shitcoin, Bitcoin, and a lot of other satellite events. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you. And we're recording this on the 29th of March, and it'll be released while we're both in Miami. So, and I encourage people to make sure they're checking out your channel. Jeff is a content creator, and he's also got a community newsletter that we're going to be talking about called Crypto Confidential. I will be sharing his social medias, and all that will be linked down below in the video description. And I definitely encourage you to follow and subscribe. But for people who might be unfamiliar with you, Mr. Jeff, do you kind of mind giving a little background as to who you are?
Sure. Well, before the crypto world, I used to be an engineer and a program manager. I was a football writer. I've used a lot of the different skill sets that I picked up over there. But I started my crypto journey about 6 or 7 years ago, where my first coin was obviously Litecoin, first one I got into, because there were only 3 options back then on Coinbase. So I had, you either went with Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin. I did a little homework on Litecoin because I didn't really know much about it, but I liked it. So I jumped into that one. But ever since then, I've been just like learning more and more. And I learned, like, I remember back then it was hard, aside from like watching YouTubers like yourself back then, and you find like Omar Bam or Bitcoin Ben, Big Squeer, Jason It for all those guys that were out there making videos early on. Andreas and a few others, but it was pretty much you're on your own. So as I moved forward more and more, after about 4 or 5 years, which takes me about almost 2 years ago, I decided it's time for me to start giving back. And I was talking to a few other people. They said you should start a website and a channel, which I did actually on April 1st. So it's been exactly about a year now with my channel. And I wanted my entire goal in my channel was I wanted to be the person I wish I had when I started. So I was like, if I've done consulting, I've talked to people, helping them get started, set up wallets, all that other stuff, all the way up to advanced stuff. And that's more where I'm sticking to now mostly. But I wanted to be the person I wish I had when everything started, because talking to newer people, it really is a good refresher of like how things are now versus back then and what they're looking for and what answers. So having community and having a channel and outlets to talk to people, it really is a good refresher on where we need to be and what we need to talk about.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you explaining it like that. And you had mentioned Coinbase and the 3 choices being Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. When exactly was it that you got involved in crypto, and what what led you to want to get ultimately involved?
Yeah, I think it was 2017. I mean, I knew about Bitcoin a couple of years prior. I was pretty big into fantasy football, and I had a lot of friends into online poker, and the Bitcoin was predominant in both those circles. But I didn't really get into it till a friend of a friend told me he just came back from Asia and he paid for the whole trip for like 3 or 4 weeks, all through Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, now I need to know how you're doing this because I'm interested. And the more I learned about it, it was very much aligned with my own values and freedom, libertarian, stay out of my life, that sort of thing, control my own money and wealth. I had done real estate before and got snowed under in 2008, like a lot of other investors. But I'm always looking for that secondary option or that other place to build wealth because I never trusted my employer to keep me employed. And it just never, like the joke was, it was 5 years or less everywhere I went. I made it to 5 years at a job once. So I knew it was kind of mercenarial in just the style, but I always liked having that secondary option, that other iron in the fire of having things either as a writer or whatever. But crypto really resonated with me, and I just took to it, and it worked well with me because I've always had a head for numbers too. Okay,
that's cool. I didn't know that you had libertarian mindset kind of values.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember when I was in, I guess it was like middle school or high school, when I learned about government, and I was like, it was basically like stay out of my life was libertarian. I'm like, okay, I can appreciate they stay out of my pocketbook, stay out of my personal life. I appreciate that. Just the government should be just the bare minimum of what everybody's main needs are. But of course, we've seen it expand and then never contract. So.
Yeah, that's another discussion, a long discussion that we could definitely have in the future. And I may be doing, depending on how everything is in Miami, I may be doing some sit down situations where I have a couple people recording some conversations. So I may invite you with something like that, depending on all of our availability and noise and all that good stuff. But we'll kind of play it by ear. So I like the explanation that you said that when you created your YouTube channel, which you said about a year ago, was that you wanted to kind of put content out, that the kind of content you were looking for more specifically when you first got involved in crypto.
Yeah, I hit on the major things. Like, I'm like, I was one of my concerns, like, what am I going to talk about? But now it's more like, how do you shut me up? It's like, what am I talking about today? So like I talked about like how stable coins weren't stable. And then I played a game last summer called Altcoinopoly, where I introduced people to various different coins. But then it just evolved listening to people. Like I did, again, I had individual consultations and talked to people, and they were looking like, they want to know more about the economy. So that's how we got to the bit. I'm glad I had named the channel Bitcoin Business Bureau. So I was able to expand on the economy and talk to that. And I've met many other people that talk about like real estate, silver, crypto, and it's all intertwined, and how it all comes together, and having that economic perspective, it really helps. But I've done videos on security. One of my most popular videos has been on security, and just using like a typical cell phone wallet as a one of the most secure devices that and a cheap device to store your crypto. And it's just building those layers of security, just using an unlocked cell phone. It's one of the best solutions and I've vetted it with many people, but I'm like, you can get a laptop, you can go get a dedicated. I don't trust Trezors or Ledgers. I think they're hacker targets because I used to work with software engineers. I know what they think like. They want to look for where the dominant things are. So they're going to go after those two things if they can. So just using an unlocked cell phone and putting wallets on that and leaving it at home on your Wi-Fi is pretty much the best answer that I was able to discover. So.
Now, when you're talking about an unlocked cell phone, what do you mean specifically?
I mean, it's a cell phone that doesn't have a SIM card in it. It's not tied to Verizon or AT&T or any carrier. In fact, I use it. It's basically a stupid hardware device, and it's just,
you could take your. I get what you're saying. So you could take your regular device that you no longer use, reset it back to factory settings, and I call it a poor man's wallet. It's what I've called it in the past. A poor man's hardware wallet, where because it is secure. You can have a previous AT&T phone that you don't have a SIM card in, and you're not utilizing the AT&T service. That's not going to affect the phone itself.
Right.
Now, if you want to go a step further, though, and have a little bit more anonymity and add an extra layer of privacy, I did an interview with Seth from Mind Your Biz, and he's taking Pixel 3s and doing like kind of a jailbreak thing that other people can do.
Okay.
And you can have access to the Google Play Store with a dummy account that allows you to download applications that's not tied to your identity.
That's good. That's good because I've people, they've asked me about blockchain phones and like the newer version of phones, but you need to have those wallets to be able to put it. So I tell people get a relatively cheap device, but it can't be too old because it's got to support the wallets. But you get a couple year old phone, you can get it one at Walmart or Amazon, wherever you want to get it for about less than $200, and put the wallets on it and tie it to your Wi-Fi, and you're basically
Right.
done.
But the other key thing is, in order to access like the Android, the Google Play Store, you're going to have a Google account.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to make sure that whatever account you have set up doesn't tie back to you, because if it ties back to you, then regardless of how much security that you've done, you've already identified that you have wallets, because
that's true.
there is information that Google will definitely supply.
Certainly.
So I mean, that's where and we'll talk more privately about it, but I get what you're saying. So I'm glad that this is an important thing to you, because privacy is something that people should be caring a lot more about, considering the direction that we're headed in an economic standpoint, especially with the digital revolution and central bank digital currencies.
Yeah, one of the videos I recently just did, and was talking about like, if the rumors of Bitcoin going to zero, and I have clients asking me about that, what that means, and I'm basically like, this means the exchanges are going to just shut down, and like you got to get your coins off the exchanges. Where do you put them? And when I'm talking the shitcoin talk, which will happen as we're speaking now, is about having a plan. So you got to have that plan. What are you going before you invest in any coin? You got to know what your plan is and strategy is. Why are you buying it? Where are you going to store it? And what is your exit strategy? Otherwise, it's just a random investment. You really don't, have the market dictate to you rather than you telling what having a plan for whatever the market happens later on.
Okay, that makes sense. So what exactly is Bitcoin Business Bureau? And when I heard you talking about your channel, was that the original name of your channel?
Yeah, I kicked it around a few different ways. I thought about going just LitecoinLeader, but I talked to a few people and they said Bitcoin is obviously a much hotter topic. And but I wanted to have the ability to go in multiple directions and talk about my experience in real estate, startup companies, economics, silver, all that other stuff, because it's all intertwined. I mean, Bitcoin is a global dynamic. You got to understand the economics. I mean, we're talking about like other countries like Russia, China, India, what they're doing in Germany, and the World Economic Forum, the BIS, and all these Bank International Settlements, all these different things tie together. And you got to be able to talk about that. But in like sometimes when I'll get I'll have a client talk to me, and after about 20, 30 minutes, they'll start like, okay, but what do you think about what's happening in the world? What do you think about this? So they know that they don't have time to get the exposure to things that I do now as a full-time crypto person. But stitching it all together is not the easiest thing to do, but I try to give it my best shot. But I draw from all different aspects of economic talks and different aspects to try to get my best take on where we're heading in a crazy world that we're in right now.
Well, is there another page? Because this is, I mean, it says LitecoinLeader on the URL and the name.
Yeah, that's how you find me on YouTube. It's LitecoinLeader, but whenever I introduce the channel, it says Bitcoin Business Bureau. So we didn't launch it with that technical name because we wanted to build my brand versus. Okay. But whenever I introduce the channel, it's called Welcome to the Bitcoin Business Bureau.
All right. I'm sorry for the confusion. I was
no worries.
Make sure I understood it.
It's a good question to ask for a clarification. So,
and we also have you have a Patreon channel. So what's the difference in between your Patreon? If someone was to choose to support you on Patreon, what would they expect to get versus what you offer on YouTube?
So I tried to streamline it so that I only have a few different offerings, but each one has a purpose. So the YouTube is free. The website is free. That's 100% free. There's lots of resources on both, and all that content's free. Patreon, we decided that was going to be 2 levels, $5 and $20. The $20 gets you an AMA I do every month just for Patreons. But $5 is basically just supporting the channel and supporting my efforts, but also get you access to posts of content you can't put on YouTube, content you can't put everywhere else, like what the real news is talking about, and kind of gathering things. And I mentioned a lot on my channel that we're all fractured, like everything, all your content's fractured. There's stuff on Rumble, there's stuff on BitChute, there's stuff on Telegram, and that's just getting information. And then how we all communicate like we were trying to talk on social media today. I was busy, so we had to go like to the basics of just cell phone texting. But I mean, people like you have texting, you have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I'm like, some people use them, some people don't. I mean, email. It's just so many different ways. But my Patreon is just for like the $5 if you want the real news that I can't talk about entirely on YouTube without getting in flagged, getting in trouble. $5 a month, and it's just kind of a contribution. And the $20 is to join the AMA.
Now, are they videos or are they articles?
They're mostly articles. Sometimes I'll throw things up there that I can't talk about, or sometimes I've done videos just for you, for Patreons, just to explain. If I get people again asking me similar questions like what's going on, and I just, rather than like, if I get the same question 2 or 3 times, that's a clue to me that I need to make a video and explain it to people. So I go out there, sometimes do a video, but a lot of it is just content posting up there. And of course, that's a good way to access me too, and just ask a question, because I have many of my Patreons send me messages, and that's one of the first people I answer.
Well, one thing the reason I was asking about the video thing is, and I told this to Papa Joe and a couple other content creators, and I've said this in videos where I'm talking about what's been happening with my channel as far as strikes, censorship, channels being removed. I've had a strike on videos that were unlisted, and I had a strike on videos that were private. So a lot of people think that if you put a video unlisted or private on YouTube and you put the link on Patreon so that patrons can see it, but the rest of the general public can't because of how you listed it, it still is in YouTube's algorithm. It's still on YouTube. And a lot of people aren't aware that unlisted and private videos can get you a strike. So my Patreon channel, I have what was my 3rd channel, just exclusively for uploading to Patreon, because that was also a way for the early access. It was also a way for me to see if the algorithm was going to pick up something on the video before I released it on the main channel.
I have heard you say that before, and I think Papa Joe did mention that to me as well. So I did.
As long as we're looking out for each other, that's all I'm concerned with.
That's great content. And normally, whenever I do a video, like if I record an AMA and make it available for my Patreons later, I'll put it on a secondary channel for that very reason. Okay,
cool. And I'm going to include links for your Twitter account, but I want to let people know in advance, Jeff has been a very bad boy and gotten in some trouble by the Twitters, and he has an individual by the name of Joanna McGrath, how you say it?
McGrath, yeah. She does my website and she does my Twitter.
So yeah, she's helping Jeff out. So, but he pretty much runs the rest of his social media. And if you go into his YouTube channel, you'll see a link for his Instagram as well. So what exactly is Crypto Confidential? Because this is a new endeavor that you got going on, right?
Yeah, so I've been working with some people. I work closely with Divvy Daddy Patrick Keem, and we were looking to do a mastermind group of some kind, because we both have clients. We like working together, and over the past year, we've had a lot of clients ask us similar questions, and we're trying to how do we scale this thing? And we talked about doing a mastermind group and just getting it, because people like to do these meetups, and we thought about going on tour every other month and putting that together, but we thought well, why don't we do this first? And one of the people over at Viva Capital, which we are consultants with them, because they're a good spot for preserving wealth and they're a custodian account for the most part, and they're insured.
Custodial service?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So they're 100% insured with Lloyd's of London, and I think it's 1% a year. So it's nominal. It's just if you keep your long-term wealth there, it's kind of a no-brainer. But
yeah, I met a few of those guys out at, I don't remember which conference it was. There were so many different conferences. Oh, it was the event that Mark Moss had his. So it was the Miami Crypto Expo or Experience.
Right. We were all there at the same time. Yeah.
And then I'm not sure who it was that messaged me on Facebook recently or posted on my feed somewhere about attending Miami and you and Josh, Papa Joe. So, yeah, great company. And I definitely want to learn more in the future about Viva Capital from those guys.
Sure.
But we'll continue with the
at that very conference, by the way, with Mark Moss. I think it was like November last year. We kind of had a sidebar meeting, and we were telling them what Patrick and I were thinking about doing. They said, well, why don't we launch a newsletter, because there's Michelle Harper is on staff at Viva, and she's a crypto attorney, and Omar's very good at international. But so the main content comes from myself and Divvy Daddy, and we are writing articles once a month. In fact, I have to go record one after this for next month. But we put out content for our community. We're basically building a community, because people, again, it's a fractured world. They want that sense of belonging in a community. So we have, it's not just a newsletter. We have a forum where you can ask questions, and we're always there, like every day or every other day, answering questions. We do 2 AMAs a month. So again, you can hop on and just talk to us and ask questions about whatever you like. And they almost always run long. And then there's the newsletter that we send out a hard copy and an electronic copy every month. And I mean, you can get access to Michelle, which is a great attorney. There's a lot to learn. And we talk about, Patrick is talking a lot about like how to live the crypto life. So he's been a miner for years, and he just stopped doing that. But he talks about how you live off your crypto. And we've been talking a lot about like borrowing against your crypto and using sites like Celsius and Nexo to not sell your assets, but borrow against them. And then how do you start paying your bills and so on without ever having to sell your crypto? So those kinds of things. And Michelle's great about the taxes and setting up corporate structures or overseas. And Omar's been overseas. He lives in Mexico now. He was living in Australia. He escaped there or from there. And it's a lot of answers in the community for a lot of people to get access to all of us for a little over $100 a month. And then it's a one-stop shop of getting all of our attention, and we focus on our community. And then we have the forum for everybody to interact with one another as well.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to talk to you, and sometimes I do this, and I had my mic muted.
I was wondering. I was like, did I do something?
Yeah, I was actually, because I'm doing things on the back end with the video layout, and I'm looking at Michelle's information. And I was asking, so is Michelle Harper an attorney?
Yeah, she's an attorney. She's a great crypto attorney, and she does IRAs. In fact, they just patented, I think they trademarked crypto IRA. So they got that name, but she's an attorney. She does crypto. She specializes in that. She does corporate structures, trusts, all kinds of things to like save taxes or to set you up for long-term planning. And also, this is another thing to think about is like, quite often if there's married couples, one of them is more crypto than the other. What happens if someone, happens to no longer walk the earth? What happens to crypto? So this is you having a custodian. It's an easy way to transfer to whoever is going to take over your wealth from that point.
I actually have a book about estate planning and stuff like that from a crypto perspective. If I can find it, I'll take a picture and send it to you. But the reason I was asking about her specifically is I need you to connect me with her so we can do an interview.
Absolutely.
I want to ask her some questions in regards to the wealth preservation, the cryptocurrency planning, and trusts, because I'm looking into trusts. I'm going to be doing a few things, which I'll explain to you in Miami what I'm going to be doing. And I'm looking at different options for trusts and looking for some some actual legal advice, from what I've been learning, because I don't like to deal with attorneys.
No one ever does, but having a plan going forward with an attorney can save you some headache in the back end. But they can take whatever situation it is and probably help you in regardless. And she's very sharp. She wasn't always a crypto attorney, but she understands a lot of estate planning and assets and such. And
if she's focusing on crypto though, and that's like one of her areas that she wants to get involved in, then I can already see that her mindset is not like the average attorney, the average what I like to call them, it's like they suck the teat of the bar association, and I'm not a fan of the bar association. So,
Well, Michelle's husband is Justin Harper, and he's part of Viva Capital. He's a partner in Viva Capital, so they're definitely tied to crypto. So they're deep into it.
Okay, cool. Now I noticed that you have a Crypto Confidential link on your webpage. Is that the best way for somebody if they're interested in signing up? To get connected is directly through your website at the link that says, well, I thought it said right here. As you
Yeah.
scroll down, you'll see the Crypto Confidential. And if you click here, it will take you her.
Yeah.
Which is this is the best way for someone to sign up if they're interested.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get some samples of the content too. You can go through the links on here and see I wrote a bonus report for people at the beginning of the year. Like we actually gave out my top 10 coins for 2022. They've been doing pretty good so far. We had a good start, and then it's a kind of a dry March, but we're still putting that positive. And I basically I didn't just tell people what my picks were. I just also said, here's my thought process, and here's how I came up with these picks. So I wrote one of my first articles was how to get from 10,000 coins down to 10, which I think is a valuable conversation. And Patrick wrote, like we did foundational articles. Like Patrick first wrote the 10 crypto commandments, like, having a plan, or the dollar is garbage, those kinds of things, that you're getting your mindset right.
That's definitely important, and taking the emotion out is probably one of the most important things I think people can do. People get so emotionally tied to money, and now I've gotten to the point. I mean, I can't say I was like this when I first started, but with crypto, I used to always constantly check prices. I was constantly looking at my coin market cap, looking at CoinGecko, or looking at my Blockfolio, which is now the FTX. And same thing with even like gold and silver prices. And now just knowing what's happening around the world, I don't even really care, like as far as the prices, because I mean, it's the reason why I got involved in these technologies, and the reason why I look at things like gold and silver, and look at things like Bitcoin and other decentralized cryptocurrencies, because I want to see the day that we don't think about these in terms of US dollars and measure it against fiat money. And that's how we value, like we say Bitcoin, like right now, sitting over kind of in between the 40, like middle of 44K, kind of right there in that pocket. But that's saying that it's worth that in US dollars, which to me doesn't have any value. So I would much rather get to the point where one Bitcoin is worth one Bitcoin.
Yeah. And I think that's important. That's actually one of the articles I wrote recently, which is kind of being your own market maker, where you find what you value and watch those trading pairs. Like, do you want silver? Do you want gold? Do you want, you've got Bitcoin to silver, Bitcoin to gold, and then finding market or guns or whatever you think is valuable to you, food, and pricing those things. And like the dollar is just an easy common denominator, but it could just well as be, there's a great chart of gold versus Bitcoin. And that's a much more telling thing about the economy. But yeah, I think that the dollar is just an easy way to measure things for now. But eventually, we're not going to be worried about dollars. It's going to be like, what do you value? What assets do you think you're going to appreciate? And how do you preserve your wealth? And how do you get more of those things? That's how you need to compare gold, silver, guns, ammo, Bitcoin, all that stuff.
Now, I think it would be cool if we were to like have a pricing mechanism for like gold and silver for against cryptos. I think that would be, I would much rather, say that one Bitcoin is worth, let's say an ounce of gold is $2,000. So that would be like 22 ounces of gold roughly. For 44,000. If we're looking at 2K gold an ounce, roughly, just giving estimations. But that would be a better way for me to swallow, like measuring Bitcoin's worth versus the US dollar. But I mean, that's just the way the rest of the world is conditioned. So I get it. It's just my gripe. But so what are your thoughts on gold and silver?
Well, I think they've been repressed, and I think what Russia just did about staking their ruble against gold is really just devalued the dollar that much more, because I think they're now pegging it to like it translates to about $1,600 instead of 2,000, so that kind of it deflates the dollar. So
the ruble just pegged to gold.
Yeah, that just came out. I think the other day I don't know the math behind it, but if you do the math, I think I saw it on X22. They did the math for you, but it was basically like $1,600 an ounce, or if you translate rubles to dollars and then the rubles to gold and do all the calculation, it works out being like about $1,600 in Russian terms versus the dollar. So they just lowered the value of gold. So that's where we're heading. I think that as everybody is kind of becoming across the globe, they're becoming more nationalistic, not just the United States. Russia's doing it certainly for right now. And like no one wants their fiat, but they're trying to create value to get it out of the marketplace. So they're trying to say that you can get gold more cheaply if you use the ruble, and they're trying to push rubles out there to pay their bonds, and everything's tied with that. So, but I think as more people get down the line and start to get like the crypto mindset, I mean, we all have the same crypto mindset. If you've been in crypto for a long time, you pretty much don't want to spend your crypto. That this, Bitcoin's gonna be worth more in a year than it is today. So why do you want to spend your Bitcoin? So if everybody starts getting that,
but with that argument,
yeah.
I'll let you finish.
Well, I mean, if you get that mindset in more and more people, you're going to get the natural evolution of the new economy is going to be kind of like back in the 1890s, where you save more money versus spending it. And there's a trade-off of like, I don't want to spend my appreciating assets, but I still have to buy stuff. So it's saving will be encouraged. There'll be a new dynamic and a new paradigm for world economics if it's more and more people get into crypto.
And basically what you were talking about there is like Gresham's law, where bad money drives out good money, drives out bad money. Somebody's going to want to rather use US dollars versus gold, or use US dollars versus Bitcoin, because gold and Bitcoin are more scarce than US dollars. Now in the future, and even present, I do try to utilize and spend cryptocurrencies. It's not always Bitcoin, because it is a scarcer asset, and I do look at it like that. But things like when we talk about buying coffee with using cryptocurrency, something like Dogecoin would be a perfect medium of exchange for us to be able to utilize to purchase for small purchases like coffees and things like that. And the reason I say that is because the tokenomics of Dogecoin are almost the exact opposite of Bitcoin, where Bitcoin's limited to 21 million. Doge is an inflationary currency. There will always be more Doge, just not a max supply as of yet. So with that being said, there's always going to be more Doge. So I would be much more comfortable with using Doge, even Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash or stable coins, depending on transaction fees for everyday purchases. And I do try to do that as much as possible. I bring in less than my rent monthly in fiat. And that's only from Patreon and YouTube, which is less than $700 a month. It's kind of like more like $550. It's pretty sad what I make from YouTube, and Patreon's all right, but I'm going to be replacing all those things. I'm going to be getting rid of these points of failures. But you also admit, the last thing I'll mention is you had mentioned all of us kind of being fractured all over the internet. That's important, especially in the day and age of censorship, to make sure that people are going to be able to find you. And some people prefer other platforms over others. So that's where I'm trying to get help so I can be on pretty much every platform. I may not be as active on commenting and stuff, but my content's available on every platform, that I'm able to potentially reach that many more people. But going to continue to utilize YouTube because it is the second largest search engine. You're not going to reach new people on these other platforms. You're going to be in what I call an echo chamber, just kind of preaching to the choir, not reaching anybody new, just reinforcing ideas that everybody's already familiar with. Yeah. And I'm not really game for that.
My first year, it's tough to keep up all the different ways to communicate and all the different platforms. But I decided that as I built my LitecoinLeader YouTube channel, I wanted to get to a certain point. I wanted to get to a certain threshold where I could expand from there. And I'm pretty much at that point. So now that's something I may start branching out. Now that I've gotten to a year under my belt, I've gotten a certain number of subscribers, and I've gotten to the monetization checkpoint. So I can move on to that. But at the first, I wanted to have here's where you find me. Because sometimes, you steer people, but the masses are on YouTube. That's absolutely correct. But that branching out from there to what other people like, that's great. But it depends on if you get booted off of Twitter or not. So sending stuff on Twitter is a little more complicated for me. But I'm actually gonna be redoing my LinkedIn and actually upgrading that and getting more people to be able to find me. And that, as I speak more and more around the country, it just happens more and more. But I try to have here's my main places. But if you really want to reach me, I try to accommodate whoever I can whenever I can. But it gets to be you get to pull it in many directions pretty quickly.
No, I know how I can be, definitely. And all right, man. Well, I definitely enjoyed the conversation. We're definitely going to do more. Maybe bring you on an episode of Crypto Rewind or a future roundtable conversation about a specific topic. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you in Miami. You know, again, while by the time this comes out, we will be in Miami, and I'm definitely encouraging people to head over to your YouTube channel and subscribe, follow you over on Twitter, your other social medias, check out your website, and also check out the Crypto Confidential. Again, all this is going to be linked down below. Before we wrap up, my friend, do you have anything you would like to add or any final thoughts?
I think we covered it pretty well. I mean, again, the important thing is, just have a plan, be focused, and find out what your purpose is and what you're trying to do. But I'm trying to be that guy that, like, I've got lots of experience on my belt, and try to remind people that, I started somewhere too. We all start somewhere. So don't worry about catching up to people that have been on YouTube, on the internet for years. We all start somewhere, and if you're getting into Bitcoin today, you're still ahead of 90% of the world. So you're doing pretty good.
I like that you said that you're that guy. He's that guy. So go check out that guy.
We all need
that guy. That guy, LitecoinLeader. Again, everything's going to be linked down below. Bear with me 1 second, Jeff, and I will wrap up and stop recording and holler at you for 1 second. I'm going to have links for everything that we talked about on today's show. If this is your first time stumbling upon any of my content, I encourage you to check out and explore my channel. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the notification bell, because sometimes YouTube might notify you when my videos actually come out. And I will leave you with this. Be blessed, be the change, practice change.